Blessed be all of my soul family, friends, and allies out there. Nico, son of Selene of integrativemysticism.com here. And in this video, we are going to talk about Saturn and Neptune retrograde in Pisces, what they do, what they're all about, and how to navigate them and work with these retrograde transits, which are going to be with us pretty much for the second half of 2024, and see how they can be of enormous benefit to you. Now, I have talked about these in my monthly astrological forecasts and weekly forecasts as well. So if you're curious as to how these things are going to occur and where they go to work for each sign, well, you might want to check those out, but I will also leave a quick reference written down in the down bar below for you guys as well. And you'll have everything you need right there for pretty much whatever sign you want to look at. Outer planet retrogrades can often be confused for more mainstream associations with inner planet retrogrades, right? Everyone and their mother, whether they know about astrology or not, or they want to hear about it or not, probably has heard something or other about Mercury retrograde. Mercury and Gatorade, right? That's how they mock it, because sometimes it deserves to be mocked. And when it comes to outer planets like Saturn and Neptune, however, it's a very different experience. Outer planets tend to be the kind of influences that are more difficult and challenging when direct, but more beneficial and a lot more easy to work with when retrograde. There are some exceptions, but that's a pretty good general rule. So with Neptune and Saturn retrograde, you don't need to be anticipating maybe a Mercury retrograde or a Venus retrograde or a Mars retrograde, because we're talking about a completely different kettle of fish. Saturn, when direct, is the taskmaster. It is the harsh teacher, the harsh professor and headmaster that can be responsible for restrictions, limitations, discipline, boundaries, karma, challenges and blocks that we have to face, and it can raise those up or enforce those things or bring those to bear for our own good, where we need to be ready to take those situations on. However, when Saturn is direct, he can feel a bit malefic, because it's not always fun to face those things, and it can make whatever area of life he is focusing on very challenging on a day-to-day basis, because Saturn, all about restrictions, discipline, and karma, is also forcing us to learn a lot of lessons for our own betterment, for our own maturity. But that also means a precipitation of a great deal of challenges. When Saturn is retrograde, actually he already is at the time of me recording this video, Saturn is retrograde from June 29th of 2024 going all the way up until mid-November. These restrictions, these challenges, these blocks, these difficult lessons, and whatever issues that he's been enforcing or would normally bring up, relax, become less potent, become less present, become less impactful on a day-to-day basis, especially when it comes to big issues that we normally have to navigate or work our lives around, or have struggled to maybe cope with, struggled to master, struggled to get past, clear, move through, or bring down and eliminate. This is a great time for paying attention to where long-term or even mid-term issues around restrictive obligations, commitments, people, or environmental influences have been controlling or imposing a control over your own works, your own plans, or how you carry on. Sometimes this can show up where we are getting a chance to give the slip, issues that have maybe been deciding factors in what we can and can't do with our career, around the office, in our social lives, with creative projects and pursuits. This can also be a time where issues that refuse to get solved, that refuse to go away, or what makes a certain problem tick, things that have been pervasive, constant issues within ourselves and the world around us come up to be eliminated as well, because their power and their ability to exert their influence or maintain it has diminished quite a bit. So if you have been maybe looking to get away from something that you've become trapped in, or get away from something that has stalled out, or get away from maybe a stagnant period or a stagnating situation, or you're looking to cure, fix, or unmake something that even you may have been part of bringing about in the world, this can be a really good period, right? Saturn retrograde gives us a chance to refuse, reverse, reject, or even undo things that we would normally encounter a lot of resistance with releasing. This is also a great time for taking big steps towards releasing yourself or making some kind of big move with your life that would normally have encountered a great deal of resistance from environmental influences, whatever those kinds may be, whether it's paperwork, contracts, obligations, agreements, people, it doesn't matter. That kind of resistance, or their ability to effect or maybe impose a resistance or a restriction, is also diminished. So it's a time for release, it's a time for recess, and a relaxation of restrictions all around. Just make sure that you understand that Saturn is still doing this with an expectation that we take it upon ourselves to do the work. No one can or will do it for you. However, there will be times when Saturn retrograde does reveal why or what or how or who could be the reason something is not ever taking off, going forward, why something might be stagnating, why something might be blocked, why something may not succeed under the conditions that have been made. And so Saturn will give you answers to the tests. Saturn will give you answers to the questions or point out the source of problems and issues. But confronting them, eliminating them, or releasing ourselves from them, it's always going to be on us. But that's just astrology, right? So what about Neptune? Neptune is retrograde as of July 2nd and will be retrograde up until December. So pretty much running a retrograde course almost entirely at the same time as Saturn. When Neptune goes retrograde, the planet of dreams, inspiration, but also illusions and fantasy and possibly even deception, changes to the planet of revelation, truths coming out, big reveals, and also mystery and puzzle solving. So it's a great pair to have. With Saturn retrograde, relaxing restrictions, blocks, and obstacles, we have, of course, the puzzle solver, the revealer, and the truth teller with Neptune retrograde. And with Neptune retrograde in Pisces, this is going to be a time where things that maybe you've been having a hard time figuring out, how to get started, how to get through, how to bring together, whatever you're trying to work through, are going to have their answers get revealed. This can also be a beautiful time for discovering things that have been hiding in plain sight that maybe we've not noticed that could be enormous assets to us. Whether these are material assets, again, work or career opportunities, things that could change the course of maybe a life path or plan, friendships, community, relationships, big reveals across the board. The elimination of falsities and falsehoods from everything, right? Veils dropping, things that we do need to see that might be covered up in our connections or with maybe certain pursuits or things that we've been carrying on that we may have the wrong assumption about. We might see that certain things that we thought were bad or no good turn out to actually be really good. And some things that were really good at presenting good or presenting the aesthetic, but not proof of concept of good, are being revealed for maybe only being skin deep in their value and their beauty. This is also a time where secrets, missing information, and things that maybe need to be filled in terms of gaps of knowledge in our lives are also going to be presenting, both in the present and regarding the future, and from the past. And so there can also be a lot of not only reveals in terms of what we see in how we look at the world, how we look at what we've got going on, and who we've got it all going on with, or who we should, or who we should not. But we're also seeing where different stories, different paths will lead and have led with a lot more clarity than maybe we've had in the past. Regardless, Neptune retrograde can also be a time where a lot of beneficial shortcuts, secrets, and opportunities come up as well, because things are more plain to see. Things are more obvious. Things are less mysterious with Neptune retrograde. And that can also lead to some really important revelations and some really important new stories or commencements getting on that were not maybe readily available, or maybe were just too slippery to work with before. So Neptune retrograde and Saturn retrograde working together in Pisces, it's actually an enormously beneficial thing, especially when it comes to helping us and everything we've got going on around us go through a bit of a course correction and perfection process. So that is what I've got for you all as far as learning a little bit more about navigating Saturn and Neptune retrograde and what you need to know about what's going to present over the course of this next half of the year. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You know I appreciate it. And of course, if you ever want to get a personal reading with me, you can go on ahead to my website. It's integrativemysticism.com.